I myself, I'm an Ashanti from Ghana, West Africa, and land is very, very important to us. No matter how brilliant, how educated you are, the question is, do you own a piece of land? And if you don't own a piece of land, literally, you don't have much of a background. And so when we're talking about land claims and all of that, it is with great respect and deep appreciation of the whole value of the meaning of land. And so with that discussion gone before us, if anybody has any comment you want to give, or question you want to ask any of our panelists, we have microphones here, another one over there. Please feel free to line up in the aisle, and then we alternate from this side to that side. Now, I would also encourage you, we've done well so far, haven't heard any cell phone ring or anything, so if by chance you haven't turned it off, let's try to turn it off now. You know, whether it's a blackberry or whiteberry or blueberry, whatever it is, let's turn it off so we can move on.
Hello, my name is Daniel Bowers, and I live in the community, but I also live in Ithaca as well. On the topic of sustainability and...
It's being turned off, we know that.
Okay. This is directed to the panel as a whole, and it's personal, and I'm sure that there are probably people in this room that feel this as well. It's a favor, and in the sharing of the Onondaga knowledge, that we can all work together so that we can learn like what to plant for the healing of the environment, and also to plant for the animals, and because like we have deer and fox in the city, and you know, we have a lot of things that it'd be really nice if we could heal that way. And I know that there are people who are using plants on a more high-tech level where they're using them to clean up pollution and so forth like that. So there might be a way for people to share a lot of knowledge, and it's just a favor. I've read some Native American like literature on how plants are used to heal people, and they have done wonders for me and for friends of mine and family. So I just hope that we could continue that. Thank you.
Well, I can't respond to, I'll respond to a couple pieces. One is that in October there'll be 2 evening programs in a row and a day-long teach-in that will be really focused on environmental issues. So I hope you'll be able to be part of that, Danny. It's certainly, you know, and I sort of alluded to this before, that I think there's often been a sense of, or a hesitation on the part that I've felt of people from Onondaga of sort of generally sharing knowledge with the broader community because of feeling, not trusting that that would be used well, that it wouldn't be exploited in some way. And certainly when we look at other parts of the world, there are massive efforts to commercialize traditional indigenous knowledge and plants for the profit of pharmaceutical corporations. So there's some real reality behind some of that hesitation. But certainly, I agree that that we have a lot to learn from our Onondaga brothers and sisters, and would welcome such opportunities.
My name is Barry Lentz. I'm a homeowner in the Land Rights Action area. I'm also chairperson of the Social Justice Committee at First Unitarian Universalist Society of Syracuse, one of the community sponsors for this series. I thank the panelists for the presentation tonight. I guess it's a question probably for B, with hopefully an affirmation maybe of the sentiment from Wendy and Andy, if you have anything to add. It certainly, I think, I'm hopeful that things can happen that are positive through the courts, although, as everybody's indicated, we have reason for dismay with recent decisions. But it seems to me ultimately this is a political and a social issue in terms of its final resolution, not a legal issue per se. And to my knowledge, the Common Council hasn't made any formal statement about its position on the land rights claim. If I'm wrong, I'm sure you can correct me, B.
You're not wrong there.
What's that?
You're not wrong.
Okay, I didn't think so. So as president of the Common Council, I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about the possibility of some kind of positive affirmation coming out of the council regarding the land rights action, in light of Andy's comments about the desirability of negotiated progress in whatever form that may take. I know one of the fantasies I've had through these series is that, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we could get everybody who's attended these to convene at the Common Council meeting during some session, and maybe we could get something going in that direction. So I'm wondering, B, if you have any thoughts about the possibility of that.
Well, the interesting part is that as president of the Common Council, I cannot introduce any legislation. So I only have the ability to encourage other people to introduce legislation. But it's not anything that we've talked about, but it would be something that we could talk about. And I can't put words in anyone's mouth on the council except my own, but I would be more than willing to bring it forward as something that we should consider doing.
Who would be the best counselor that we could put words in their mouth?
Well, depends on what kind of personality you're looking for, Barry. I can bring it back. The way we've done this before, when we've done resolutions in support of, no unilateral action in Iraq, or some of the other social justice issues that we've taken a position on, what has happened is people come in and just ask us to listen to them, and they help us formulate the document that we're going to put together. And I have probably been the hostess of most of those meetings. So that would be the place to start, Barry. Let's sit and talk about what we want the document to say, and then proceed to bring it forward to some of the other members and get their support behind it for introduction. Okay?
If I could just add to that, one difference that I see between the kind of really symbolic resolutions about, stopping the war, or the Patriot Act one had some real actuality to it as well, is that we could also, if in drafting such a resolution, we could think about what are some commitments that the Common Council could make on behalf of the city of Syracuse to begin doing things now. I know the school board is independent from the Common Council, but certainly, Wendy mentioned education, as did I, and you spoke to it. And while there's New York State curriculum, there isn't any reason that the city of Syracuse couldn't make a commitment to revising and providing accurate education about the Onondaga Nation and the history of this region in terms of the native people who were here before European colonists. I
was just going to add to that is Sam Laguza still on the Common Council?
Yeah, he's on the county legislature.
Okay, well, he's been down to the Onondaga Nation School. Sometimes we have visitors from all walks of life. A lot of times their children are doing papers or they're studying something, and they come down when we have festivals at the school. And he came. I also met Lovey Winslow. Is she
also from the county
okay.
legislature?
There was a dedication recently of the war veterans at the On Center, and she was there. So we do meet people who are in government offices quite a bit and have some dialogue, and I think we have some friends there. I know we have one.
My name's Joan Cope Savage, and I'm delighted to see you all here. One thing that really sweeps me away is the concept of that justice involves healing. And I don't think that's really seeped into every part of our society. And so I'm going to go the other direction. You're talking about next steps and next month and next year. I just was mindful of what Andy said about slavery 160 years ago. I think once those movements succeeded, no one looked back. No one says we're going to bring back slavery, and no one's going to take away the right to vote from women. And I'd like to have us have a goal that's very durable, and something in that land rights action feels very durable to me, about that when justice is happening, then there's healing. So I'd like each of you to kind of put a sentence together which has justice and healing in it, and your vision of what that includes. No pressure.
We're healed when we get justice. How's that?
All right, Wendy. Can we all take Wendy's answer?
Well, I'll say some other things while
Yeah.
you think if you want, B. You know me well enough, Joan, that I'm not going to answer your question the way you want me to. But what occurred to me is that when legal solutions are imposed by courts, there really isn't discussion, there isn't dialogue, there's perhaps community support for it, perhaps not. And recently I've heard several commentators talk about the Roe versus Wade decision, a decision which many of us in this room probably support, and perhaps there's some who oppose, but the fact that that decision was made by courts before there had been perhaps enough real discussion and debate among communities about it has meant that it's been much more divisive since that time than it was before then. At least that's my sense of the history. I'm young enough that I wasn't aware of it before the time. And so one of the advantages of a negotiated solution is that there can be tremendous community discussion and dialogue, and hopefully not every single person in the community, although that would be great, but a critical mass that supports a resolution so that it would be much more durable, it would be much more lasting than something which was imposed from courts or government without that kind of grassroots discussion and healing.
I'm going to follow Andy's suit because I'm not that quick on my feet in terms of coming up with a sentence, but I will tell you that the experience of going through the process is very painful. And I can say that from the experience I had going through the dialogues on racial healing. And there was a lot of pain. I felt a lot of pain first before I felt the justice and healing.
Mr. Negative again, that'd be me. We're bringing up, first of all, talking about the courts, then we're talking about the possibility of political legislative solutions. And really what I think we're talking about is two different cultures. And one culture that's looking out 7 generations and maybe saying, maybe we don't need to go so fast. Maybe we don't need the cell phones that we had to turn off. Maybe we don't need, and then another culture that's saying, the hell we don't. The cost of being responsible to the earth is going to involve giving up some material that I don't think people are ready to give up for themselves and can nobly say, no, I'm doing this for my kids, even though it means that what you're passing on to your kids is a worse world. And I think that's us. And I think we need to look at ourselves for that.
Now, before they give a comment, who?
Oh, my name's Joe Bilibreski.
Okay.
I'm just a citizen.
Any reaction, feedback from the panel?
Joe, you're right. I mean, you know, I was born in Puerto Rico and came to Syracuse as a 3-year-old, and by the time I got to 7th grade, I'd been to 13 elementary schools. So it has always been about more than one culture for me as well. But I'm with Andy. We have to work hard at giving our children a legacy other than what they're getting from mainstream media. And and not an easy task, but you know, I take a lot of pleasure and joy out of my son reprimanding me for not doing the blue bin correctly. You know, it's just a little thing that contributes to helping slow us down. So. Wendy?
I was just going to say, maybe it could start with the kids. The kids, they know what's going on, and there are a lot of them who are looking out for the future too, so maybe we should ask them. Maybe they're willing to give up some of the material things and the things that aren't essential. It's possible.
I guess what I would add is that I think that you're very, well, that there's many times when I think we want to pretend or hope that we don't, that we can save the earth without causing great changes to our own lives. And I think you're right that that's a pipe dream, that we really need some real significant changes. And that's something that we all need to kind of look at individually. I mean, I lived for a number of years out in the country in a house that had some solar panels on the roof and very limited electricity and a composting toilet. And now I've got conventional cable in my house. And some of that is about trying to negotiate family life, but some of that is growing accustomed to that. And I think we all individually and collectively need to take a hard look at what is essential, and that for a lot of young people, these, you know, computerized things that they carry around all the time with throwaway batteries, which are terribly toxic, are absolutely essential. And they didn't get that from them. They weren't born that way. They learned that from the culture that we've created. So it's a challenging battle. And I know, you know, my 3-year-old son, why do I need to turn off the water? Because water's precious, because it's good for the earth to turn off the water. But why? You know, it's tough to, I mean, when they get a little older, I assume that they can understand more. But
They do.
maybe not, okay.
Yes, my name is Annette Fannenstiel, and I have a clarification and then a comment, and I direct it to you, Wendy. My clarification is I haven't read a lot about the land rights action suit, but it's mainly to say that the land is precious and we should preserve it and sustain it. Am I right on that? Just clarification.
Well, that's the environmental piece of it.
Okay. Maybe I'll just take that little piece. And then I just want to ask you if you feel, as a nation, that you really are moving along with the pulse of some of the more important thinking and movements in our nation as a whole, and that I'm just thinking of Al Gore's Inconvenient